Hello students, by now you have all started your assignment on lesson planning. This clip is a set of essential reminders as you proceed with your paper. This lesson focuses on the importance and value of lesson planning and examines the basic elements of a lesson plan. A lesson plan is defined by one educational website as an instructor roadmap of what students need to learn and how it will be done effectively during the class time. Lesson plan requires you to think through in advance what you're going to do. How will you do it? Under what conditions you will carry it out, and what will be required to obtain the results? What is the level of engagement that is a high guarantee of lesson success? Planning is one of the 7 management processes. As classroom managers, you are expected to plan. Planning defines where you want your class or group to go and how you intend to get there. Planning sets the focus and directs effort towards specified goals. Failure to plan can retard the extent to which your class achieves these goals, learning objectives, or learning outcomes. Careful planning is a necessity in the teaching enterprise, and in discipline, demotivation, and learner frustration in your class can be attributed to poor planning and preparation. Why should you plan? The effective teacher is a designer and implementer. There must be a guide to what and the how. You may teach the same subject over and over, but each has its own specificity and learner's profile changes. Regardless of the format, you need a system that makes wise decisions about the strategies and methodologies you will use to help learners move systematically towards learning goals. It doesn't matter if your lesson plan is an elaborate and impeccably typed outline indicating scope and sequence, or documentation of strategic plan for content delivery, or simply unwritten notes scratched on a piece of paper on the back of an old envelope. What matters is that you have taken the time to think about your learners, your content, the order and the delivery of that content, the creative ways in which you will deliver that content, and what form of assessment and evaluation will be used with that content. If you have done this, then you have engaged in lesson planning. A lesson plan should allow for flexibility, it should allow for creativity methodology, it should allow for adaptations, it should be content driven but not so rigid so that it ignores the needs of the students. No matter how standardized the curriculum is, the instructor must take it and reshape it or tailor it to fit the present audience, and of course without changing the desired outcomes. Remember, we teach people, not curriculum. Subject. You must know your subject. Students must know that you know your subject. You have to keep abreast with the changes in your subject area. Don't blame an outdated manual or text. It is your job to update and make content fresh and relevant. You must be aware of the new innovations, technologies, text, software, and hardware that will influence your subject area. Nothing allows you to lose credibility more with your students or learners than if they feel that you don't know your subject or content area. As a teacher, it is your job. If you lack the knowledge that you are teaching, you will not have successful training. Your participants will feel that you are uncomfortable with the topics. When teaching, you have to have a good knowledge of the topics. It is your responsibility as an instructor to make sure that you are on top of things. Topic and subtopics. What is the breakdown of your content? What are the topics and subtopics? Do you follow a certain sequence? How do you break up the whole into manageable bits? This is very important in lesson planning. As a teacher, facilitator, or presenter, you must organize your content into manageable pieces in a sequence that makes sense to the learner. Lesson time. Many people ignore this part of lesson planning. This is knowing what needs to be covered in the time given and how will the time be shared so as to maximize content grasp and ensure lesson objectives and activities are met. We should allow the allotted time to influence our planning. When I am asked to present at a workshop or a training session, one of my first questions is, how much time do I have? I must be sure that what I need to deliver can be done in the time given. Planning a great lesson, then rushing to finish at the end takes away from the lesson. Learning outcomes. In this lesson, we'll be using the ABCD method. A, audience. Who are your learners? B, behavior. What do you expect them to be able to do? C, condition. Under what circumstance or condition will the learning occur? D, degree. How much will they accomplish the behavior? How well the behavior needs to be performed and to what degree? When writing your objectives, ask yourself a few questions. What is the topic of the lesson? What do I want my students to learn? What do I want them to understand and to be able to do at the end of the class? What do I want them to take away from this particular lesson? What action will they need to perform to demonstrate that they have indeed grasped the concept? If you want students to state 3 things they have grasped from a concept, be clear on the action, the measurable action that you want to be demonstrated. Is it 3 sentences? Is it 3 paragraphs? Will they write a letter? Will they use a graphic organizer? Be clear. Lesson introduction. This is a part of the lesson where you must spark the students' interest and grab their immediate attention. It will require some level of planning, preparation, and creativity. Do something that they will talk about for the next week with their friends. Examples of these are video presentations, movies, documentary, having a guest speaker, photo slideshow, a photo album, artifacts, manipulatives, photos from a trip, home video, or storytelling. Be creative and don't bore the students. There should be an entertainer in every teacher, and the classroom is your stage. Procedures or steps. This is a general plan of how you will proceed with the lesson. What will you do? What will the students do? What activities will be done and in what form? This is all about student engagement. We also think about your instructional materials, the teaching aids we will use to assist in delivering our content. These should be creative, suitable, useful, relevant, and appropriate. Don't do an overkill. Only use what you will need to use to make the lesson creative and engaging. Conclusion. This is where we put it all together. Ensure that there is a systematic recap of what was covered in the lesson and clear up any questions and concerns to ensure understanding. Check for understanding. The student should know that the lesson has come to an end. End the lesson properly. Evaluation or summative assessment. What will you use to test for understanding? Will it be teacher-made tests, standardized tests, a battery of tests, quiz, project, portfolio, presentation, experiment, speech, drama, or any other creative method? What will you use to test for understanding? What will be your product? Reflection. This is the stage at which the instructor is engaged in self-assessment and self-evaluation about the lesson. This should influence future lesson planning. Ask yourself, what were your strong areas? What are the areas that need improvements? What can I do better next time? What worked? What activities did my students enjoy? How effective was my methodology? And how relevant and effective were my instructional materials? All instructors should strive to think critically about their lesson delivery and engagement. And this should be based on students' reaction. Determine what needs to be improved or kept to continue delivering successful courses. I look forward to reviewing those dynamic and engaging lesson plans.